All right, everybody, what is going on? Welcome to another episode of Mixed Martial Arts. My name is Austin Shaper. This is a show where we cover the topics of UAP, UFC, and World War III. Today is going to be a UFC episode. We got a big card coming up this weekend, and I got my buddy Cam on for a guest episode to go over it and maybe give some predictions and just hash it out. So, Cam, how you doing, buddy? How's life treating you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. How about you?
Pretty good, except for all those fucking technical difficulties getting this shit set up. You guys know I'm new to the guest episodes. This is only the second guest episode, so I can't work the basic skills of computer. I'm still learning that shit. So before we dive into the card, you guys do me a favor. If you like this type of content, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click like on the video. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just click follow and leave me a 5-star review. That'd be very helpful. And lastly, if you guys enjoy talking about this type of content, in these topics like UFC, UAP, World War III stuff. I've created a little community. It's growing on Discord called Mixed Martial Arts. You can find it in the description, the link in this video. Go ahead, click it, and you can basically, we just post news, ask questions, talk back and forth, and we just got a little community of people who care about talking about the same shit. So, all right, Cam, let's dive into this card. I was watching the breakdown from UFC uh earlier today, and it was getting me excited, dude. Like I think it's fucking crazy that we have two big pay-per-views in 1 month after we were basically starved of good pay-per-views for a few months. But
Right.
what are your thoughts on like the card overall, looking at like the whole lineup from top to bottom?
Man, it's honestly it's stacked from head to toe. Man, it's gonna be
It
a
is.
great card.
Yeah, it is. Let's start at the
BMF belt
top.
on the line.
What was that?
So the BMF belt on the line too.
Oh, you just turned sideways. There we go. Okay, so let's start. Yeah, the BMF belt. I don't know how to feel about that. I actually wanted to get your thoughts on that because you guys know, if you're listening, if you're any type of UFC fan, they did the BMF belt. What was it, like 2 or 3 years ago at this point?
Yeah, Nate versus Masvidal.
Yeah, Nate versus Masvidal. It was actually a really good fight. Um,
Yeah.
and they gave Masvidal the belt, who you guys know just retired after his loss to Gilbert Burns. What was it? Probably like 6 months ago now at this point. And now they've put the belt back up. I feel two different ways about it. On one hand, I think the belt's corny and it's unnecessary, and like this fight is
True.
a banger at the top of the card no matter what. But the only counterpoint to that is that if you were going to do a BMF fight, I think that these two guys, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, are like the literal best people that you could have be fighting each other. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Both of these guys are dogs.
Yeah,
And they're gonna
they
fill
are.
up Saturday, sure.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. They're both dogs. And it's interesting because I was listening to some of the older interviews, and Dustin was talking about, if you guys watched their previous fight, I forget when it was at this point. It was a while ago. I think maybe even 2021, something like that, or could have been even older than that. But Dustin finished, no, it was a TKO, but yeah, he finished him in the third or fourth. And he
Yeah.
did come out and say that the leg kicks from Justin Gagey like severely compromised him. I remember him talking about that. And it makes me wonder. I'm not the best at predicting fights, but it makes me wonder because, we saw Justin Gaethje fight Rafael Fiziev in his last fight. I think you and me actually watched that one together, Cam.
Yeah.
And it was a good
Yeah.
fight and it was good. But if there was one thing it showed me is that Gaethje kind of leveled up. It seemed like he's just becoming a smarter fighter. And it's interesting because now that they're doing this rematch and we're trying to kind of see which way could this fight possibly go, I think that my personal opinion is that you have to favor Dustin Poirier. I think you have to. He finished him in the
Yeah.
first time they fought, and they're both dogs, like you said, but Dustin just seems to be able to like pull it out of the fire every time. I mean, he walks through a lot of fire to get these victories. He's technical, but he's also kind of gets in those brawls. Whereas Justin is just kind of now recently finding that more strategic game plan. What are your thoughts on like the main event? Do you agree with that assessment? Like Dustin is maybe favored, but obviously you can't count Gaethje out at all. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you really can't count both guys out. Obviously, this second fight for them is completely different than the first one. It's what, 5 years ago, something like that. So it's two
Oh
totally
yeah,
different fighters at
2019. You're
this
right.
point.
5 years. Yeah.
Two totally different fighters at this point. I mean, Gaethje has leveled up, but so has Dustin. Dustin's more clean, probably with the boxing for sure, and
Mhm.
he's definitely probably smarter in general when it comes to fight IQ. But I mean, Gaethje's also a dog, but I feel like Gaethje, he's done so well with his past few fights. I mean, he fights a lot smarter now, but I feel like Dustin might bring out that dog in him again. He might get a little sloppy, and I think that's when Dustin
Mm.
might catch him.
Well said. That's a good point that I kind of forgot to clarify is that like Justin, he sometimes he comes out the gate really smart and he's doing those leg kicks from up close and then
Right.
he gets clipped and then he kind of just reverts back to old Gaethje, like fighting Michael Johnson in his debut in the UFC Gaethje, where it's like he could
Yeah.
land on you and if he does, it's night night, but also
Right.
he's so sloppy that it's I would agree with that. I would say Dustin's more technical, but um what's also interesting about this fight are like the title implications because we've heard that Islam and I'm not sure if you saw this. We didn't speak about it, but Islam and Oliveira are supposed to be rematching, but they were going to be doing it in Abu Dhabi, and for whatever reason, Oliveira is not able to make that fight. Did you see that news?
No, I didn't see that. I thought it was still going on.
No, well, I don't know if it's official that they canceled it, but I know that Oliveira came out. I don't know if it's injury or what, but he said he wasn't gonna be able to make that date. So I don't know if that's true. We can imagine pretty much. I think it's a safe bet that whoever wins this fight, they're gonna come out damaged. Like
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
unless it's somehow just one of those nights. I think it's like the probable outcome is that someone's going to be both of these guys are going to be messed up no matter who wins. So I don't know if they're going to be able
Yeah.
to make a quick turnaround. Do you favor either of these guys in an Islam fight? I mean, obviously they both lost by submission to Islam's mentor in Khabib, but do you think if these guys get another fight, another chance at the belt, that they have a chance against Islam?
Yeah. Just after seeing Volk fight him, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there and made him Islam look like he can be defeated.
Beatable.
I'd favor Dustin in that for sure. I don't know about Gaethje, but Dustin, I favor Dustin in the Islam fight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think these are both amazing fighters, like you very well put, but it's just like Dustin's one or two levels above him. And I don't know if that's
Yeah.
just because he's more of a vet. He's just gone through the trenches for so long. I don't know what it is because they're both amazing. When you watch them fight each other, dude, there's like absolute chaos. And you even saw Gaethje, like I said, in the last fight with Rafael Fiziev. He was smart and like he kind of pulled it out in
Yeah.
the third round when they were, I think they were 1 for 1 and going into the third round, correct?
Yeah, landed that takedown at the very end too.
That's right, the takedown. Finally,
Yeah.
dude, we've seen a takedown from Gaethje, the fucking wrestler who never wrestles. But yeah, so let's give a prediction. I'm gonna say Dustin. I'm gonna say Dustin, and I think that he gets it done even earlier than he did in the last fight. I think he's leveled up more than Gaethje. So I'm gonna go Dustin Poirier second round TKO. What say you, Cam?
Man, that's rough. I don't think this fight ends by decision, that's for sure. Um, man, if I were to pick, see, it's so hard for me because Justin's my favorite fighter, but like
He's your
Dustin,
favorite?
yeah, he's my favorite fighter.
Okay. Don't
I'd
pick.
probably say,
Yeah, you can't pick with that. Pick with what you think's gonna
yeah,
happen.
I'd probably say Dustin, fourth round, third, fourth round, TKO.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know Justin was your favorite fighter. That's cool. He's amazing, dude. And it's kind of sad because he said that I know that he's got another title shot in him, but he said that his retirement is getting near, is basically what he's
Yeah,
getting
he's
at.
old,
Especially if
35, both of them.
35, he's gotten banged up. And if he loses this fight, it's probably do you think he retires if he loses this fight?
No, I don't think he retires,
You don't think
honestly.
so?
No, I think he'll keep fighting for sure. I think he's still hungry for it.
Yeah, I was listening to the Countdown show earlier today, and they were mentioning that Justin has more UFC bonuses than he does UFC fights. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that, but
Yeah,
it makes a
more
lot of
bonuses.
sense.
Crazy, more bonuses than fucking fights. And here's the one thing. So I love both these fighters. I don't have a preference. I do favor Dustin, but one reason I could want Justin to win is that I would love to see a trilogy because that would just be awesome, especially if somehow it became for the belt. Let's just make a hypothetical scenario here and say Dustin, or let's say Justin pulls this one off. Charles isn't able to make the Islam fight. Justin fights Charles. Justin beats Charles. I'm sorry, not Charles. He beats Islam for the belt. And then you get a trilogy with Dustin and Justin.
Yeah,
And it would be the
that'd be
BMF
amazing.
belt. Yeah, it'd be the BMF belt and the 155-pound title.
Yeah,
So yeah, a lot of drama could potentially happen from this fight. But yeah, don't bet. Anyone listening to this, don't bet on our
Yeah, no,
predictions.
no, do
We
not.
both lost some money on this, so don't listen to us at all. I always say, I try to preface this at the beginning of all my episodes in both the UAP, the UFC, and the World War III stuff. I'm not an authority, literally just a dude who's fascinated to talk about it. And I love, trying to create a community here of other people who care about the same stuff I do. It's really that simple. So moving on, I think we pretty much covered the main event well enough. Obviously,
Yeah.
we've talked at length about this fight with Jan Blachowicz and Alex Pieta. This is another fascinating fight. I kind of wish it was 5 rounds. Every time I look at it, I think it's 5 rounds, and I have to remind myself, oh shit, it's a co-main. It's 3 rounds. But there's a
Right.
lot of possible drama in this one too, because obviously, if you guys are UFC fans, you know that Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira's longtime rival, went up to 205 and fought Jan for the belt, attempting to become double champ. He didn't get finished. It was a competitive fight, but you could tell that the size of Jan and the wrestling and the grappling just really kind of took over that fight. It wasn't like Israel was overly matched. I think it's fair to say it was just like a weight class difference is really what the difference I saw. And now
Mhm.
that Adesanya knocked out Pieta in Alex's last fight, now Alex is moving up to 205. There's a lot of potential drama that could happen should Piera beat Jan in this fight, and that's a big if. But if he were to able to get past Jan in this fight, and then potentially fight Jamal Hill if he comes back for the belt, or Yuri, whoever he fights, we could potentially be seeing Israel Adesanya go up to 205 again to be able to do a UFC trilogy with Piera, which is kind of what I'm hoping for. But I think getting past Jan is a big task. What are your thoughts on this coming event? Who do you think you would favor? And do you think Pierre's got to? Do you think he's going to do good at 205, man? Like, how do you feel about that?
I think he's gonna do pretty good, honestly. Going back to the Izzy fight versus Jan, Izzy, I think he weighed in like what 190 for that fight, so he was still
Mm-hmm.
underweight for it.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, he weighs in at 205, but he's fighting at probably like what 230, something like that. So that's a
The
pretty
big
good
boy.
weight difference. Yeah. Um, Pierre, he's looking huge. He's looking strong too for 205. I think it's going to come down to Jan's wrestling. If he can get him to the ground and hold him down, I think that's going to be the big difference. But what I've been hearing is that Jan actually wants to trade with Alex, and I don't think that'll end too well if he trades with him.
You think so?
I think it'll be an early finish for Alex if he trades with him in the beginning. Yeah,
Interesting. I hadn't heard that. I know that Jan has got some like crazy leg kick defense, and that
yeah,
really factors in because Piera is like one of the primary techniques he uses is that leg kick and the body kick with like practically no wind up. But when you see someone like Jan who's able to defend against that so well, plus he has the grappling, plus he probably has the
yeah.
size on him. I don't know, man. It's a fucking interesting matchup. I have to say, if you were to hold me to the fire and tell me I have to predict this one, I wouldn't bet on this one for one. Do you know the betting odds? Is Piera a major underdog or?
I'm not for sure,
I'd be
honestly.
curious to see that. Yeah, if he was an underdog, I would definitely bet him. But if they're relatively even, I think you have to go Jan because we've kind of seen the prototype of this fight, kind of because Israel Adesanya was a professional kickboxer. Obviously, that's his game. Same thing with Alex Pieta. And then you saw what happened when Izzy went up to 205, and that's when Izzy was like on his hot streak. So if Jan was able to dampen that, imagine what he can do to Piera, who doesn't have the wrestling, does not have the grappling, doesn't have the experience in MMA that Adesanya does. That being said, Piera probably carries a lot more power than Adesanya, might be fair to say. And I did
Yeah,
see a video that I think it was MMA Junkie that posted a couple days ago, and I agree with you. Alex is looking big and he looks strong. But what actually caught me off guard is that he doesn't look like he's lost even an iota of speed. Shit, he kind of looks faster
mm.
on the pads at
Yeah,
least. You know,
yeah, for sure. He looks quick.
he looks quick, man, and the pads are just pad work. You can't
Yeah.
necessarily correlate that to the fight, but we'll just have to see how it plays out. If you're gonna make me predict, I'm gonna have to say Yawn by decision. 3 rounds. I think he could wrestle him up against the cage. I think he could defend against the leg kick. I think Pierre could knock him out totally, but I don't think it's the most likely scenario. Yawn's a beefy, light heavyweight, and yeah, I'm gonna go Yawn by decision. What say you, Cam?
Um, so I'm gonna lean towards Alex on this one, just because I feel like he's gonna be a lot better fighter at 205, just for the fact that he's not depleting his body that much for the weight cut.
Mm,
I'm gonna say Alex actually knocks him out in under 2 minutes of the first round. That'd be my pick for that.
damn, in the first round.
Yeah, in the first round, 'cause I think Jan's gonna try and test his hands, and he's gonna find out real quick that it's not a good idea.
Kind of like what Pierre did to Sean Strickland. I think he finished him in the first round
Yeah,
relatively quickly. Yeah, I could.
yeah, but
You never know, dude. You never know. Side note, I just had to bring this up. It has nothing to do with this card, but I saw Piera mention that he thinks that Sean Strickland has a significantly better chance to beat Israel Adesanya in the title fight than Dricus du Plessis. And I thought that was the weirdest take of all time
yeah,
because, in my personal opinion, which, what the hell do I know? But just from what I've seen of Sean Strickland's fights, I don't really think he has much of a chance to beat Izzy in a fight. I
no,
just don't see it, man. I think if they fought 100 times, maybe Sean takes him to a decision once. But yeah, what
yeah.
are your thoughts on that? Because I thought that was some weird shit. Maybe Pierre's still waking up from that knockout, dude. Because that was the weirdest take, the weirdest take I've heard in a while.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. Sean's more of a jab fighter, and
Mm.
yeah, I don't see that doing much to Izzy. I feel like Izzy would just counter strike him the whole time.
Yeah, that's exactly
Uh,
how I felt. Yeah. Okay, so that's an interesting co-main. I wish it was 5 rounds, because I just think this could either turn into a war, or I think that Jan could potentially kind of make it a little more boring, kind of what he did with the Izzy fight, which is the smart route to victory. Nothing against him, but it could lead to a potentially not the firework display that we want to see for Pierre's debut at 205. I kind of felt like the UFC was feeding him to the wolf on this one. I didn't see a reason why he's got to fight Jan in his first. Do you think this is a fair matchup? I felt like it's a little. It's almost like you want to stomp out his fire, giving him to Jan in his first fight at 205. I don't know.
yeah, I don't think UFC should have fed him a wrestler for his first fight at 205 for sure. I don't think
Mm,
that's in his best interest. But I
yeah,
mean,
and
he's
like
got
I said,
Glover in his corner, so that might end
yeah,
up helping him out.
yeah. You just never know. I mean, you really never know. I just think it's a weird matchup, but I'm here for it, and I think it's going to be a good one. Moving on, we've got Wonder Boy Thompson versus Michael Pieta, and Michael is the one with all the. I haven't watched all his fights, truthfully. I am a fan of his though because he's just fucking crazy. He does all the crazy kicks and spins, and he's just a bit of a wild card. I think that against Wonder Boy, and you got to remember Wonder Boy is coming off of that TKO of Kevin Holland, where I think he broke his knuckles, and that's why it's taken him so long to return to the octagon. Interesting that you have both Kevin Holland and Wonder Boy on this main card together. That's interesting. But I have to say that I think Wonder Boy should definitely be favored. I think this is kind of kickboxer versus kickboxer. Wonder Boy's got the experience, he's got the skill, he's got the resume, he has the technique. Where Pieta is amazing, but he's just a little bit too far out there, I think, to be able to like face somebody. The only counterpoint to that would be that Wonder Boy's a little long in the tooth. He's been around a long time and he's lost a few decisions. I mean, he's coming off of that win, but I believe before that he lost 2 decisions. I think in a row, possibly even 3. Can't really remember off the top of my head, but he's long in the tooth, is my point. So, whereas kind of Michael Pieta, I don't remember his age, but he definitely hasn't been in the UFC anywhere near as long as Wonder Boy. So I'm gonna have to say Wonder Boy. I think I'm gonna stick to. You know what? I think he can finish him. I think that Michael is a little too crazy, and I think that he just gets a little too wild, and a lot of people don't have the ability to capitalize on that because he is big, he's powerful, he's fast. He kind of reminds me of like a mini Johnny Walker type of deal. I think that's a good comparison. I'm gonna go Wonder Boy, uh, second round knockout. What do you think, Cam? What do you think about this one?
I definitely say lean towards Wonder Boy on this one. Yeah, no, you give him a. I think I'm pretty sure his last 2 losses were from wrestlers.
Mm,
So you give somebody that's going to get in his face and strike with them. I would always favor Wonder Boy in this. I say it rides out to a decision on this one.
yeah, I was gonna say decision, but I just like I said, I feel like he's just spinning around all the damn time. And Wonder Boy, Wonder Boy spins too, but it's like he's got a purpose to it. He's got a rhythm and a
Right.
flow, and he only opens it up when he's building momentum. Whereas like crazy ass Pieta might just come out the gate doing like a 900 and try to kick you in the face. So yeah, I think he can finish him, but I think that's totally fair. Wonder Boy by decision. That's fair. Okay, moving on. This is another weird one. We got Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. I watched the most interesting interview of Tony. I don't know if you saw this in the presser that happened. I think it was today or yesterday, where he said that basically said fuck all the people doubting him, and he wants to go on a 5-fight win streak and then get another title shot before he retires. And I mean, I gotta say, I love Tony, so I don't like to laugh at him. I'm a huge fan of him, but I thought this shit was out there, man. I mean, if you guys have watched his last 5 fights, everything to me has screamed retirement. Like, please retire for your own health, for the longevity of your life. I think really what turned his career around was that Justin Gaethje fight. That
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, that shit was devastating. And while he didn't get finished, he looked like, I mean, he looked like he was really taking some brain damage. You saw him shaking his head back and forth, and he kind of just never came back the same. Even in this last Nate Diaz fight that he's coming off of, he had his moments. It was a good fight. Both of them are long in the tooth. I actually favored going into that fight Tony to win it, and I mean Tony looked like an old grandpa in that octagon. To me, he looked old, and he just looked like he kind of didn't have it anymore. And it's nothing against him, dude. He was a legend, and it's kind of a shame the trajectory of his career, how he just didn't really get when he was riding that momentum of that continuous fight streak of years and years and years. I forget how many he even won in a row. It had to have been like at least 9. I can't remember what it was, but it was something far out there. And he just kind of never got the title shot with Khabib. He had the injury, and just kind of how it panned out for him. I'm still a huge fan, but and if you were to allow him to continue to compete, I think placing him against somebody like Bobby Green is fair. It's relatively competitive. But at the end of the day, I would like for this to be his retirement fight. I think it worries me because let's say he scrapes out a decision against Bobby Green. He's going to get all amped up and think that he's ready, to do another, go on another streak against the contenders and then fight the champion. And I don't think that's in the cards at all. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a fair assessment? Am I counting him out?
Uh, nah, I think that's pretty fair assessment of Tony. He's really long on the tooth. Like you said, I think this is the perfect fight for him, though. It's definitely winnable too. I mean, Bobby Green, he's a good striker, but he's sloppy. He keeps his hands down.
Mm.
Tony still has power. You've seen him knock down Chandler. So, I mean, he was looking good too. I don't know if you watched the embeddeds, but he was looking pretty good in the embeddeds. Looked like he was in good headspace after all those legal issues he's been having. But but yeah, other than that, I mean, it's definitely a winnable fight for Tony. That's for sure.
That's a good point. I don't want to be too harsh on him. That's a very good point. And yeah, I would agree. This is a competitive fight. And, win or lose, I would like to see Tony to retire personally, but just for the sake of his health, I think that's not realistic unless maybe he gets finished and it goes very badly for him. Remember that Bobby Green is coming off of this weird fight with Jared Gordon where, what was it? It was Jared Gordon, was it not? With the headbutt?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, he
Yeah, it was a
headbutted him.
headbutt,
Yeah.
and it turned into a no contest. So, uh, interesting. These guys, neither of them were on a win streak, and then you also had Bobby Green getting finished by Drew
Drew
Dober.
Dober. Yeah.
That was a crazy fight. That was a great
Yeah.
fight. But yeah, so I guess this is a competitive. I'm not here to hate on Tony. I'm a huge fan of him. I just think he kind of missed his title shot when it was his time, and now he's trying to reclaim it. Props to him. These guys are athletes, and the mental state they have to be in to get themselves to the octagon. You got to be a little kooky. You have to be a little delusional, and it's nothing to make fun of them for, but it does make me like worried for his health. With that being said, I'm saying he gets finished in the first round. What about you?
Yeah, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say
Second round.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I say he actually TKOs Bobby Green.
Okay. What
Let's say
round?
he catches him some. I'm going to go third. I'm going to give
Okay.
a third round. Yeah.
I mean, I think if there is going to be a finish, it's actually more likely from Tony's perspective. If Tony's going to get a finish, it's more likely that it would happen later in because he's got that gas tank that just goes forever and he wears down his opponent. So yeah, I think that's fair. I'm going to say Bobby Green second round TKO, but this one's kind of up for grabs. I absolutely wouldn't bet on it whatsoever.
No.
Okay, moving on. Let's just cover this last one and then we'll dive into. There's just one fight in the prelim I really care about. I don't know about you, but real quick, we'll cover Michael Chiesa and Kevin Holland. This is kind of the jiu-jitsu. Actually, I guess you could say grappler versus striker. Kevin Holland's obviously got the reach, the size, the length. I don't really know what to make of this fight. I know that Chess has kind of fallen on some hard times as of late, and kind of so is Kevin Holland. He's coming off of that loss to Wonder Boy, and he hasn't he had that amazing streak. What was it, 2022? He was like upcoming fighter of the year or something. He was on, I think he had
Mm,
5 fights in the year, four, something crazy. And then kind of after that, I don't want to say he fizzled out, but he goes up and down. He got submitted in, was it his last fight or the one before it, by Chimaev within like 20 seconds. So obviously he's got a weakness here that I think Chiesa could capitalize on. I'm a big fan of Kevin Holland though, and for that reason and that reason alone, I'm gonna say Kevin Holland gets it done on the feet in the second round. I think he could TKO. I don't know why I'm predicting all finishes today, but I think that he's going to finish him in the second round. I think that stand up's vicious, and he is coming off of that vicious TKO of Santiago Ponzinibbio, if you remember that one.
yeah.
That was pretty recent. That was incredible. He's got some scary knockouts, dude. Like the one against who was it, that one that he knocked out against the cage? I'm blanking in the jiu-jitsu guy. I'm blanking on his name. Can you think of him?
Mm,
Baldy.
no, no, not the top of my head.
It's blank. I am so sorry. I can't think of his name right now. I'm
Yeah.
blanking, but he just has some crazy finishes. So when he gets it done, it's always in style. But what's your prediction on this? I'm going to go Kevin Holland. I think he gets it done in the second TKO.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Kevin Holland on this. It's definitely interesting. Was his last fight at 170?
Yes, I
Or
think
was it
so.
what
Ponzinibbio,
was it?
if I'm not
So
mistaken. So
this would be his second fight at 170 then. So
I think so.
um, I mean, definitely does have a reach difference on him, and Kevin's got some hands on him. He's got decent jiu-jitsu too. Um, I'm definitely leaning towards Kevin on this, but I'm gonna go decision.
Decision.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. It's not, we can't get every card that's going to be finishes all the way top to bottom, but man, there's been some great cards. And like, I was so excited. What was the last pay-per-view was what, July 8th? And now this one is July 29th. So like, I wish we could have it this way. I could take, if you would ask me my preference, I could take no ESPN cards, just none, and two
Mm.
stacked pay-per-views a month versus the fights every weekend with like a good main event. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with that. Stack the cards for sure.
Mhm.
Instead of having kind of like these mid cards that, some people tune in for. I mean, there might be like one or two decent fights on it, but yeah, I definitely
Jacare
agree with that.
Souza. Jacare Souza, by the way, that's the one who got finished by
That's
Kevin
what it
Holland.
is,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry. I can't believe I forgot that. Feeling like a casual right now, but yeah, it was Jacare. Okay, we got one fight in the prelim I want to cover, unless there's anything that you think I'm missing. This is Derek Lewis bouncing back from. He's a bit of a losing streak right now. He's kind of fallen on
Mm.
hard times. He was at the tip top of the division there for a while, and a lot of people thought he could potentially become champion, and it's just kind of not panned out to be. I don't know if you could chalk it up to a mental reason or a technical reason where he's just missing an ingredient in his game. I think there's an argument for both of those. I don't
Yeah.
know really much about anything with his opponent. I got to be honest, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Don't really know anything about him. I did look at his record and it's relatively impressive, but it's not enough that I can make any sort of prediction. I can say just from being a fan, I would really like Derek Lewis to bounce back because I would really hate for him to lose like another one or two or maybe three in the UFC, cut him and he goes to like Bellator. I would really hate that because I think the heavyweight division needs people like him. And he's always, as you remember from his, what was that fight with Volk? What was that fight? He wins in the very last minute. He knocks him out in the very last minute. The Russian, I keep
Um,
wanting to say
uh,
Volkanovski.
it's Volkov, is that who it was?
Volkov, Alexander Volkov.
Yeah.
Yeah, good,
Yep.
good memory. Yeah, so I mean, my point being, he can always bounce back. You can never count out Derek Lewis, especially at heavyweight, and even amongst the heavyweights, he seems to carry that power more than almost any of them. So I'm going to say Derek Lewis gets it done by decision. He grinds it out, and that's based purely on the fact that I want him to stay in the UFC. Do you got a prediction on this one? What are your thoughts on where Derek Lewis is at in his career right now?
Um, yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Derek Lewis on this, just for the same reason as you. I like him as a fighter. I really don't know much about the other fighter either, Lima.
Mhm.
So I definitely lean towards Derek Lewis knockout. I think in the past his cardio has failed him. I think that's been his biggest issue in most of his fights. And he's been fed to the wolves for a few fighters. I mean, the Tai Tuivasa fight was pretty competitive. The Sergey Spovich fight, that one was kind of rough. He kind of
Yeah.
just got kind of
Mhm.
stomped out in that one. But I mean, that guy's an animal. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Derek Lewis in this fight.
Fair enough. All right, man. Well, that's a good ask. How many fights is that? So we got like one, two, three, four, five. So we got wait, one, two, three, four, five, six, set. The Paulo Costa fight got canceled. That's one thing I should
Uh,
mention. I'm a little bummed about that, but I didn't know much about his opponent, so I am actually okay with how stacked this card is. I'm okay with that they pushed him to was it Abu Dhabi to fight Chimaev. Any as we get out of here, any last minute thoughts on that fight, that matchup that we heard about, Paulo Costa Chimaev?
I think that's gonna be a really interesting fight. Both those guys really dislike each other, so it's gonna be
Mm.
definitely one for the fans, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. We'll have to dive in and maybe we'll hop on, have you on the show again when that card comes up because that's a good fight. And there's just a lot of good fights coming up, but this card is one we definitely have to look forward to. I will be hopefully doing a quick recap of the card Sunday morning is my goal. Cam, I'd love to have you back on again. I think this was really fun. You got such a good mind for MMA, and it's interesting because when we first met back in like 2016, you didn't really care much for the sport, and then we
Uh,
kind of didn't see each other. You know, we were good buddies while we were working together, and then we kind of didn't see each other for maybe 2 years, and then I see you 2 years later, and you're jacked, and you love UFC, which I loved both of those transitions. So well done on that part.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I love the sport. It's great. It's about the only sport I watch too, so
Ditto,
I'm
man. Only
super
sport I
excited
care
about
about.
it.
Best sport in the fucking world, 100%, man. We
Yeah,
got to go see a live event soon. But
oh, for
yeah, dude,
sure.
thanks so much for coming on. I'd love to have you back on again, guys. As we wrap up, do me a quick favor. If you enjoyed this video, just click subscribe on the YouTube channel, like the video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, just follow and leave a 5-star review. And go to the description of this video on YouTube or on my homepage if you would like to be a part of the community on Discord. We just post breaking news, questions, topics, and just kind of get to interact with other people who like talking about this stuff, geopolitical news, UFC news, all this UAP stuff that's been happening. It's kind of fun to stay in touch with people all over the world who have different attitudes, different mindsets, and bring a different perspective. So I recommend you guys join that. I'm having a blast talking with people on there. But yeah, what a good episode, man. Thanks so much for coming on. You guys
Oh,
have a
thank
good
you, man.
night, and we'll be back Sunday with another episode. Take it easy.